Chris, look up in the sky. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a supergroup. Straight to the point this episode, episode 11, Music Bar Podcast.
Welcome back to the Music Bar Podcast.
Oh, people. Here we are again.
Thank you for your feedback and your comments from the last episode.
Last episode we were just talking about some news, and then we talked about the 80s a bit. No real focus on it, but it was our 10th. We were just happy to be here for our 10th.
Yeah, absolutely. So today is the supergroups.
But this one we come in because Chris has brought his notebook.
Oh,
always when he's got his notebook, he's done his research. And I like that because Chris wanted to do this one of supergroups. Right from the start, you were like supergroups, and I'm like, I don't really like supergroups, but
I don't either.
How many are there, Chris?
There's thousands. There's hundreds. There's too many.
So why?
Well, let's start from the beginning with what's a supergroup. What means it's not a band where someone passes away or someone leaves and they bring in a new person.
And it's not a they don't have superpowers. Let's get that under. So
all
you people who've sort of gone looking for things and typed in Marvel or super, no.
They probably play instruments very well, like a superhero, but that's not classed as a supergroup.
Or they've had big success, which is considered super.
Yeah, that's not classed as that either. So a supergroup, based on what I'm looking up and researching and what they define it as, is a bunch of different bands, members from those bands join together and start something separate.
Separate, that's right.
And they've all come from bands which are doing quite well in their own time, in their own way. And then they decide, hey, I like you, I want you, come over here, let's write some material.
But once they probably get into the studio, they realise they either can't stand each other because they've all got big egos, or they probably sit there and probably go, I'm glad I'm doing this because I hate everyone in the band I'm with at the moment.
Something like that.
Yeah,
so I just started researching because there's been a few bands recently coming out which made me think, let's just do it now. There's a new one called NHC.
All right, yes.
Now, NHC...
I probably know some of these, but I'm going to allow Chris to sort of educate me on a lot of these. I know a lot of these, but
NHC is the new band. They've only come out a couple of months ago. Each letter stands for the last name of the band member.
Uh-huh.
So N is Dave Navarro.
All right.
H is...
Sammy Hagar?
No, Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters.
Oh, right, okay.
And then you got Chris Chaney from Jane's Addiction.
And Dave Navarro is from Jane's Addiction.
And Dave Navarro from Chili Peppers as well as Jane's Addiction. So those three have joined forces together and made this band. And
because didn't Taylor Hawkins have a side band called Chevy Metal as well? I don't think they were a supergroup.
No, they weren't. I think it was just something fun. But this is classed as a supergroup in a sense. And Taylor Hawkins sings and plays drums. They've released 2 songs. One I don't mind, one I don't like. But it made me start thinking about supergroups a little bit more. And I was very disappointed with this supergroup that I was looking forward to many years ago.
Yep.
You've heard of them. We've discussed it already a few times. But Chicken Foot.
I
still hate the name. I'll never like it.
It's an awful name.
And they weren't going to call it that, but in the end they did. But Chicken Foot was going to come out. For those who don't know...
There's a rude connotation to Chicken Foot too.
Yeah. So Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Chad Smith from
Chili Peppers,
and Joe Satriani. So to me, because Van Halen weren't playing anymore, to have 2 guys from Van Halen with a drummer from Chili Peppers and bring in a guitar god like Joe Satriani,
who technically has never really been in a band.
No, he hasn't. He's only ever recorded instrumental music.
He's played for other people too.
Yes.
The first time I saw Joe Satriani, he was Mick Jagger's touring guitarist when Mick Jagger came out here doing a solo.
Was he really?
Yes.
There you go. Wow. So having those 4 together, I kind of was hoping, I wouldn't say a new Van Halen, but something that would release songs very similar. And to me, they were the biggest disappointment ever.
I remember you told me to listen to them, and I did. And I kind of went, it's just
rubbish.
Meh. So why does a supergroup all of a sudden bring out meh material?
Exactly. And that's why you got great songwriters, but to me, I went back and looked at it and went, okay, so why didn't this work in my mind? Why didn't I think this worked compared to other bands when they've recorded, like Van Halen and other things?
Yeah.
And to me, it came down to Eddie Van Halen always wrote songs and for the song, where I think Joe Satriani is based on instrumental. He's really good at it, but he just could not find the right song structure to fit in lyrics.
That's probably a good... we're just tipping away here at Chicken Foot, and I think you're right.
And I think he had an album called Flying in the Blue Dream, which he had a song on there called Big Bad Moon, which Joe Satriani sang on.
Well, if you
which
could call it
kind
that.
of worked.
If you could have called him singing on that.
If you call it singing, yes. But he kind of worked. But to write a hit song or hit a whole album of songs that could have Sammy Hagar's voice and then Michael Anthony's backing vocals in it and fit together, I just never worked. I
remember we've had the conversation. I just want to bring this about rhythm guitar players, and you said to me Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, I got to agree.
Yep.
Yeah, because Eddie always serviced the song.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been watching other guitarists. There's a really good video of Paul Gilbert and his wife playing Jump together.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just made me realise that Eddie's playing was it's more rhythmic.
Yeah.
It was more rhythmic. The solo was just a thing.
He would just do that easily.
It was, as Frank Zappa would say, putting the eyebrows on it.
Yeah.
That's how he would describe those sorts of musical touches. It's like, just giving it that little, putting the eyebrows on it, so to speak. So,
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Chicken Foot was a failure to me in that sense. But
they released 2 albums.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not releasing any more. And Joe kept being interviewed. When are you bringing another Chicken Foot album out?
All right.
And he kept saying, well, when Sammy Hagar is ready for it. But Sammy Hagar was noted to say, I don't need to bring out another album because I've got so many songs of my past that he created the band The Circle, which is touring now with Michael Anthony, Vic Johnson, and Jason Bonham. And they're doing all the Van Halen, Montrose, his solo career.
So that's what The Circle...
But now they just started writing their own music.
Oh, no.
So it kind of puts away, I think, Sammy Hagar personally thinks that Chicken Foot's not very good. But
maybe he just didn't want to tell Joe Satriani that I don't want you in my band.
You can't write songs. So that's my
Isn't that what Josh Homme did with Queens of the Stone Age? He split the band up so he didn't have to work with Nick Oliveri, the bass player, anymore. And then he reformed the band without adding Nick Oliveri or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So, but coming in the supergroups, one of the most famous ones, which people probably would not say they are, but when you research, you see they are probably the very first, is Cream.
Yeah, we've discussed this, and I think it's contentious. But you have why do you think they were a supergroup?
Well, I'm not saying it is. I'm just going by what I've researched, and if you look at it, they have been probably the first. They categorised in that sense. Now, I don't 100% agree with it, but
I suppose Eric Clapton was already the Clapton is God graffiti was already around London.
Yeah,
by the time
the Yardbirds
and John Mayall's Blues Breakers. He started with that, remember? Yep. And then he did the Yardbirds.
And Derek and the Dominoes.
Was Derek and the Dominoes before Cream, was it?
Yeah.
Because Dwayne Allman, from the Allman... There's another supergroup, is Derek and the Dominoes.
Mm.
Dwayne Allman was in that group as well, from the Allman Brothers. So Clapton already had that guitar... He was already a superstar by the time he joined Cream. Yeah.
But Ginger Baker, that's my issue. Ginger Baker wasn't really the superstar yet, but he was in Cream.
Yeah,
so that's kind of like...
yeah, that made him a superstar drummer.
It did.
And Jack Bruce was just like...
Legendary.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He sang them and everything like that.
You can agree to that, you can disagree. It doesn't really matter, but they are classed back then, already back in the 70s and 60s or so. That's kind of where it all started.
See, I mean, to some extent, some people probably could call Led Zeppelin a supergroup in that regard, because Jimmy Page was already, apart from the Yardbirds, he was the session guy.
Yeah.
If they wanted, he was the session. If any song from the early '60s, I reckon, that came out of London, before
he wrote, he played on.
He played on. He either co-wrote it or he played on it.
And Jeff Beck did too in the Yardbirds, didn't he?
Jeff Beck was in the Yardbirds as well.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the Yardbirds, you can't hear that Jimmy Page sound that you'd sort of... If you're looking to get into the Yardbirds and think, I want to hear where Led Zeppelin came from...
It's not there.
It's not there.
No. Definitely.
And Led Zeppelin originally were to be called the New Yardbirds.
Oh, really?
When they first started touring, they actually were still the New Yardbirds.
Yeah.
And he wanted to form the band with John Entwistle and Keith Moon from The Who.
Right.
Apparently that's where the term Led Zeppelin came from, because they joked, this idea will go over like a lead balloon. So even they were a bit cynical about the whole idea of a supergroup.
Well, Keith Moon was in that Alice Cooper supergroup called the Hollywood Vampires,
which is still kind of going in some
capacity.
now
with Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp and Joe Perry from Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Whenever he's in LA, he plays with the Hollywood Vampires.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah,
and that started back in the day, back in the 70s, I think. With
I would have. Yeah,
it was called a drinking club that Alice Cooper put together because there was a place in London where they used to go and drink.
Mm-hmm.
And now and then, like Keith Moon and all these other guys would turn up, and sometimes John Lennon would turn up.
LA.
Ringo Starr was
LA.
there as well.
Yeah, they were all living in LA. Yeah, they're all.
That was in LA. And sometimes John Lennon would turn up, but Ringo Starr was part of it.
That would have been Harry Nilsson would have been part of that too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because Nilsson and Lennon were drinking partners.
Yeah, but probably not always.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't have been the most reliable sort of.
Yeah, John Lennon was more based in New York, I think, when he was in the States.
Oh, he went to live in LA when he had that famous lost weekend of his. When
Yoko.
No, Yoko
stayed at home.
She sort of let him kind of go off and be a wild boy.
Okay,
that's what happened.
A hall pass.
He got a hall pass. Basically, she basically said,
"We're on a break.
We're on a break. You need to go and do what you do. Get it all out of your system."
Yeah,
because that's apparently what he did. He went to LA and he caroused with that's where they became the Hollywood Vampires. And Harry Nilsson is one of my favourite singers and songwriters. He was with him, and Alice Cooper was, because at that stage, Alice Cooper was like a superstar.
Yeah.
Ringo Starr was with him as well. And I don't know if Groucho Marx I know Alice and Groucho Marx became good friends, but
Keith Moon was there.
And
they tour now with Duff. Sometimes tours with them.
Yeah, look, and I imagine it's a much more sober affair because they're all.
But just to name a couple of other supergroups, which I think worked, was Travelling Wilburys.
Travelling Wilburys worked amazingly.
It was really, really good.
It did. It worked amazingly.
And there was only a short amount of time with all five because
Roy Orbison
passed away.
He died before the album came out.
Yeah. So the first album had Roy on it, but great album.
It is pretty good. I think I said to you once, I think one of Bob Dylan's best ever songs is on that album, Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
Yep.
And isn't it funny that Tom Petty is one of the dead ones?
Yeah.
Bloody Jeff Lynne and Bob are still going. Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Now, Roy died, just before the album came out. He recorded the video for Handle with Care.
Handle with Care, yeah.
But by the time the second single came out,
he passed away.
He'd long gone, yeah. But the Travelling Wilburys started by accident, though.
Really?
It wasn't a deliberate. They were recording George Harrison's album Cloud 9. And Jeff Lynne was producing that record.
Yep.
And
from ELO.
Yes, Jeff Lynne was producing the record. And he was doing a song that was going to be a B-side for one of the singles. And friends, I think one of them was friends with Roy Orbison.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, Roy Orbison he was only just coming back. He was kind of like the biggest has-been there had been in rock and roll at the time, yeah. He'd just come back because he'd done the song of his In Dreams, one of my favourite Roy Orbison songs, was in the David Lynch film Blue Velvet.
Right.
And it kind of got Roy Orbison back into the scene. And I think one of them was Bob Dylan. At that time, Bob was doing everything with Tom Petty. So Bob was kind of like, well, I'm not, Tom Petty. I think Jeff Lynne had produced stuff with Tom Petty. That's where all the connection had come. They recorded this song and had such a good time. All five of them just around a microphone. That's literally all it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was five of them around a microphone just singing and jamming, and they had such a good time that they did it.
And it did really well, I thought.
Do you know that CD was not available for years?
Really?
For decades almost.
Why?
Disputes, especially between Barbara Orbison and George Harrison's wife.
Oh, okay.
Over royalties and stuff like that, distribution of royalties. Yeah, those two were really like... I remember when I was working at the record store, every day, every week, you got asked for the Travelling Wilburys. And we couldn't believe it. Like last episode, we talked about 80s songs getting played on the radio and stuff. We're always getting... this is one of the songs that is constantly being played on commercial radio still. You couldn't buy it.
You couldn't
So
buy it.
only up until the last 10 years, the Travelling Wilburys albums have been available
Right.
to buy on CD or download or anything.
Yeah.
So there
Because
you go.
after those guys come out, they had the other version of that kind of thing, which was the Highwaymen.
Now, yeah, I remember we said not all of them are very good.
Mm-hmm.
We just said 2 very good ones, so.
Yep.
Yeah. You can't... I get shivers when I think about it. How do you go back against a band with Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Chris Christopherson, and Waylon Jennings in it? How do you go past that?
And they had some pretty good songs.
They did.
Yeah.
They had great songs. That's what I mean. Those, sometimes you get the 4 in the room and it's like, oh yeah. But the Wilburys worked.
Yeah.
And the Highwaymen bloody
worked pretty well.
Big time, you know.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of sales they had, but it seemed to, everyone knew who they were. Everyone seemed to have a CD or something in their house.
And when they toured, they played.
And they played big stadiums.
They played big stadiums. And how do you hate Willie Nelson? How do you
well, you can't.
You can't hate any of those.
And those guys separately could pretty sell out a stadium.
They could, yeah.
So having all 4, you kind of getting the bonus, you know. So
I think it was having all 4 of those guys.
Yeah.
And they were, I think you got to look at, they were the ultimate in that outlaw country.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we look at country as such a generic thing now, and there's such country pop, and it's infiltrated all the charts. I actually saw who was it? Next year, the CMC Rocks is coming to Australia.
All right.
Post-COVID, so let's see if it goes. And Brad Paisley, I believe, is the headlining act. Now, I've seen Brad Paisley do Hot for Teacher.
Really?
Look it up on YouTube.
Wow.
That's what tells you now about the connection between country music and rock and roll now. All these country guys, like the guys in Florida Georgia line, they've all got long hair and tattoos, and, you know, they look like rockers now. And all the guys who are in LA and in Nashville, you know, killing it. But yeah, when you see guys like, I mean, Keith Urban's the ultimate, like, he loved Guns N' Roses and all those bands. But when you see
he can play guitar too, man, alive.
God, holy crap, can Keith Urban play? I saw him live last year, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. And his playing, he did this solo that was just out of this world. It was like, I've never seen anyone play like that. No. But back to it, that outlaw country, Nashville did not recognize these guys as proper country. So that's where the term outlaw, they were the outlaw country guys. They were doing their own thing. And there's this rawness to their style of country music. Which, I'm not a big country music fan, but you mentioned those 4 guys, and I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will see those guys, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, easily. All right, this is good.
Audio Slave.
Yes.
I would call them a supergroup. The member of Rage Against the Machine didn't pass away, and they weren't doing anything, so they joined forces with a singer who wasn't in a band anymore either.
That's right, not doing anything.
Class as a supergroup, but Audio Slave, I think, Chris Cornell, again, with the guys from Rage Against the Machine, brilliant album. I loved most of their music, I did.
What, Audio Slave?
Yeah.
I thought it was all right.
I thought it was really good.
I enjoyed the video for Show Me How to Live because it was directly taking off the 70s film Vanishing Point.
Oh, was it really?
Oh, Vanishing Point's a great flick.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool flick, yeah. Really good. So I did enjoy the video to that, and it's not a bad song. And they tried not to sound like Soundgarden, which I gave them props to that.
I don't think they did. A lot of the times, like you say, when they do change a singer, they still sound like...
There was still a bit of a Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, feel to it.
I remember reading somewhere that some people didn't like... They thought Audio Slave would have been great. Once again, it was one of those things. I thought Audio Slave were going to be awesome. But in the end, I just kind of went, okay, they're there. They didn't kind of thrill me that much. You know the reason they broke up?
No.
They got approached to do the James Bond theme for Casino Royale.
Oh, really?
And they all went, no, we don't do that stuff. But Chris Cornell went, I'll do it.
Oh, really?
So that's this Chris Cornell solo song, and the rest of the band said, no, we don't. You know, we're Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah,
you know?
we don't need to do that.
But as someone said, you could tell the difference between Soundgarden and Rage Against the Machine. I tended to agree with this. Soundgarden had one of the most amazing rhythm sections with Matt Cameron on drums and Ben Shepherd on bass. The Rage Against the Machine rhythm section of Tim Comerford on bass, and I forget the drummer's name. If it'll come to me once, it'll come to me. Was not as good as that, and you could
I
tell.
think it's still good, it's just different.
It was different.
Rage Against the Machine and
Brad
Soundgarden
Wilkes.
Were two different bands.
Brad Wilkes is the drummer for
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine.
Two different bands, two different styles of music.
Very different styles, yeah, but did it match Chris Cornell?
I think it matched him quite well, and I think they did what they needed to do to make it work. So, again, not every song on every album was great. They had some really good songs, but it wouldn't have been every song was a hit.
No, there's some good stuff there, but just, yeah, look, Rage Against the Machine were one of those bands too that had some good songs.
Yeah.
But I would rate Soundgarden
better
over them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
easily,
sure. Absolutely.
Easily, yeah. Funny
Crosby,
you should
Stills
mention,
and Nash.
oh,
and
hey,
Young.
before we go to that,
Yeah.
Tom Morello. If there's one person that seems to be involved in every considerable supergroup at the moment, it's Tom Morello.
And Mike Portnoy.
Yeah, Mike Portnoy. We'll get into him. But Tom Morello was in Prophets of Rage, which was a him, and I think the other guys, as well as Chuck D from Public Enemy and Sendog from Cypress Hill.
Right.
Not bad. I like that sort of, and then, yeah, I like that sort of thing. And so, it wasn't a bad record. I quite enjoyed Prophets of Rage.
And he has his own album out now too.
He's got a new album out where he's collaborated with so many people with
Bruce.
so many different styles of music. Well, he joined Bruce Springsteen on tour.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, because Steve Van Zandt couldn't do the tour, so Bruce got Tom Morello. And I thought, how does Tom Morello fit into the E Street Band? Very well.
Oh, really?
Well, he added his own guitar styles. They did a brilliant version of Ghost of Tom Joad, where Tom just does this amazing solo.
Is it noise or soloing?
Soloing, man. Combination of two.
Okay.
Tom Morello can make it sound like you're record scratching.
Yeah.
That's what I've always liked about it. He always sounds like he's a DJ almost in a way.
And that's why I think, because of his guitar playing, he would always sound different with Audio Slave with Chris Cornell than what Soundgarden would with Kim Thayil.
Exactly.
There was
two completely different styles.
Yeah.
But what I enjoyed about it was Springsteen accommodated to make Tom Morello work within the E Street Band.
Oh,
it was almost like Bruce was sitting going, and Tom Morello's not a young guy anymore, but it was almost like Bruce was going, see, we got the old guys and we got the young guys in this band now. We appeal to everybody, and then also Tom Morello is used in considerably every single music doco now. No. There's always an interview with Tom Morello.
Yeah, that's true.
He brings his own microphone,
He pre-records. But yeah, so Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Now that was a supergroup.
That was a supergroup.
Had to be.
Yeah, and they only played a little while with Young.
They were together from 70 to 1974 or 5, I think.
With Young.
With Neil Young.
And then he left because he was doing his own thing and he became quite big on his own.
Neil Young was big on his own before. It was they believed it was his songwriting. But they were all songwriters. Yeah. David Crosby was with the Byrds. Stephen Stills was with... He was the English one. And he was... Something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. That was Stephen Stills. Stop. People, what's that sound? I forget the name of the... And Graham Nash, Buffalo Springfield is something that I think comes together with that. Graham Nash.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Hey, Foreigner. That's one we didn't put down.
Oh, yeah, Foreigner.
Foreigners were a supergroup, so to speak.
Really?
English and American. Mick Jones was the Spooky Tooth in England, and the other guys were well-known American musicians.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's where Foreigner. But, yeah, I didn't do enough research into Foreigner, but I just know that, yeah. But, yeah, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And they sold... When we talk about supergroups and maybe not selling or being as big, they were massive.
Yeah. Sure.
They were massive, absolutely.
Here's one for you. The one with Mike Patton and Dave Lombardo.
Fantômas.
I never heard of him before. I didn't know anything about him.
I mentioned that when you were talking about supergroups. I thought, yeah, Fantômas. Mike Patton from Faith No More. Dave Lombardo from Slayer. Buzz Osborne from the Melvins.
And then a guy called Trevor Dunn who played bass from Mr. Bungle.
Which is one of Mike Patton's side projects anyway. They are noise.
Yeah.
It's very noisy.
I saw a little clip of it, only a small, where Mike Patton was playing some kind of keyboard. He had two microphones.
Yep.
One was for singing, one was for making noise.
Because he's got an incredible octave range.
Yeah.
He's got an incredible octave. He's one of the most amazing voices. And
do you know what his octave range is?
It's huge, apparently. Okay. I don't know.
Because 2 to 3 is normal, but
he can get up to about 8, I think.
That's like Mariah Carey.
Yeah, he's got an incredible octave range.
Wow, there you
go. I remember they did an album called The Director's Cut in the early 2000s, where they did movie themes. You can't recognise them as movie. Only the one that breaks into the Godfather theme, and then it goes into this incredible noise.
Yep.
But apparently they just rearranged movie themes.
Okay.
And they toured Australia with that album, and apparently it was known that people would yell out between songs, "Play a song!" Because I suppose you got this idea in your head, I'm going to go see Mike Patton, Buzz Osborne, Dave Lombardo, and I'm not getting what I think I'm going to get, you know?
Well, that's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are they still around?
Nah, Patton... Faith No More is still an ongoing thing, you know? And Patton does a lot of different... Like, he brought out this album, which was actually very cool, of themes from Italian movies. Because he was married to an Italian woman, so he could speak Italian fluently.
Oh, wow.
So he's singing these with a big band and everything, and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So he does, and I'm sure I think Mr. Bungle is still
around?
Still a thing, too. Yeah. So and plus he's got the record label, Ipecac Records. He just keeps busy.
Yeah.
You know?
He can.
Patton always does.
Yeah. Well, there you
go.
Yeah. Dead Daisies.
Now, here's one. They've had a very revolving lineup, haven't they?
Their lineup, when I looked on Wikipedia, was that long.
Was it really?
There's so many people in that band. It all started with a guy called David Lowry and John Stevens.
John Stevens from Noiseworks, yes. When I saw them, John Stevens was singing for them.
Okay. Yep.
Gilby Clarke, who was with Guns N' Roses, was on guitar.
Yep.
And I can't remember his name, but the drummer from Jet was their drummer. Yeah.
They started with a guy called Frank Ferreira, who also played drums with Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
But that might be who they're touring with now.
Look, as you said, there's such a revolving door of musicians with the Dead. Who's the constant, though? What keeps the Dead Daisies together?
Lowry is the constant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's only it. John Corabi's been with them before.
Yeah.
Dizzy Reed's been with them before.
That's right, yep.
Marco Mendoza from Whitesnake, he's with them in the past as well.
Yep.
Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses and Thin Lizzy.
That's who I saw him with. Not Gilby Clarke, it was Richie Fortus.
Oh, okay, right.
It was Richie Fortus, not Gilby. Yeah, that's right.
So he played with them?
That's right, yeah. I knew it was a Guns N' Roses guitarist, yeah.
I think John Stevens sang the most with them, but I'm not sure if he's still with them now.
No, I don't think he is with them now.
No.
But John Stevens was singing when I saw them live. They were supporting Aerosmith when I saw them.
Yep. So they're a supergroup, and they're from here in Australia.
Are they from here or are they from America? They've got a lot of Americans.
Well, the two people who started it are from Sydney. So John Stevens and Dave Lowry are from here.
Oh, okay. So they started in Australia.
So I think they've either put together here or went overseas together and started there. But I'm pretty sure, But Asia's another one?
Yes, I went through, because I brought the book back in again, Chris.
Okay.
Because I knew we were going to talk about this because I'm Asia. Because they actually sold really well too. The Heat of the Moment was a big song in 82. And they had Steve Howe, who I believe was with Yes, John Wetton from King Crimson, Jeffrey Downs, I believe was from Yes as well, and Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake, and Jeffrey Downs was from the Buggles. Carl Palmer was from Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Right, okay.
On drums.
Yep.
I remember a mate of mine pointed out, he said, it's the worst drumming he's ever heard in a song, was in that one. I said, it's Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. How do you say it's the worst drumming? He said, here, it's all over the shop. And I'm like, it's Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you know? Yep. So, yeah, that's a super, and they were big.
Yep.
Heat of the Moment was a big song from 82.
Yeah, it was. And you mentioned also in a text to me a while back, Power Station.
Oh.
Do you know the history of them?
Yeah, a little bit. The Power Station got the name from the recording studio.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, that's the Power Station. Of course, Robert Palmer on vocals, who was a big star at that time when the Power Station
his solo career.
Yep. Andy Taylor on guitar and John Taylor on bass from Duran Duran.
Yep.
And Tony Thompson, the fantastic Tony Thompson on drums from Chic.
Okay. Yep.
You know, and it was produced by Nile Rodgers, who was from Chic as well.
All right.
So
they had a couple of good songs.
Chic.
No. Power Station.
Power Station did, and then Robert Palmer left them because they did bring out another album with Michael DeBar.
Oh, really?
On vocals.
So did he leave him because of his solo career?
Yeah, his solo career was like,
going tenfold.
Oh yeah, but I think at the stage he was doing quite well.
Yeah.
Then he did Power Station.
Mm-hmm.
Power Station I think came out in 85 or 84. 85, I think it came out. And then the next year, Robert Palmer did Addicted to Love, which was a big hit.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, he did Simply Irresistible,
which was a bigger hit.
which was a biggest selling single of 88 or something like that. It was like a monster hit. So, Robert Palmer did need the Power Station in the end.
No.
And I think for the other guys, the Duran Duran boys at that stage in the late 80s were kind of drifting a bit, you know. And
okay.
they weren't kind of having the hits that they were having in the early 80s.
Yep. Yeah, so they were pretty good back then.
Oh, they were terrific, yeah.
A couple of my favourites who I listen to quite a bit is a band called Flying Colours.
Yeah, you were talking about this.
They have Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And since he left Dream Theater, he's been in everything. He played with Avenged Sevenfold on tour. He's got a band.
He played with my brother's band. They were just walking around and they saw him on the street. And they said, "Hey, mate, we got a band." I think he's hanging around outside the studio now, just looking for someone to play with. You know,
his list of bands he's with is just incredible. But Flying Colours, Mike Portnoy, Dave LaRue on bass, Casey McPherson. Not sure his history. Neil Morse, and then also Steve Morse is one of the great guitar players as well.
Steve Morse from Deep Purple.
Yeah, he wasn't in Deep Purple originally.
No, he was in Kansas before he joined Deep Purple. But he's been with Deep Purple longer than Richie Blackmore has ever been with Deep Purple.
So he's been touring with them a lot now. But they have an album called Second Nature, which was their 2014 album, with a song on there called Masked Machine.
Oh, you said you love that.
And that's the greatest song on that album, and I have listened to that song so many times. And I'd really like to see what people think who are watching this now, what you think of Masked Machine on that album called Second Nature.
By Flying Colours.
By Flying Colours.
I'm going to have a listen to that.
And Steve Morse, his guitar playing on it is just incredible.
He's a great guitar player, there's no doubt about it.
It'll be interesting to see what people think of that song.
What are you saying? Because you mentioned Portnoy, because you mentioned Dream Theater and Portnoy a lot. What other bands has Portnoy been in?
Well, he's also in Liquid Tension Experiment, which he started back in the day. Their first album was 98, then they did another one in 99, and they released a new one recently in 2021. That's Mike Portnoy on drums. It's pretty much what I always thought as Dream Theater without a singer, which is why I like it so much, because it's great instrumental music. Mm-hmm. They're all great players, but you don't have that voice, which I get tired of.
Okay, yeah.
And it has a bass player called Tony Levin.
Yep. Oh, yeah. The great Tony, one of the great session bass players, and most of the stuff you probably heard in the 80s, Tony Levin will have played bass on that, especially the Peter Gabriel stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And on Pink Floyd, he played bass when Pink Floyd lost Roger Waters, and they did all their stuff like Momentary Lapse of Reason, and he played bass on those records.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Okay. And his bass is amazing bass.
Oh, he plays.
He plays some weird things.
Like he has this thing where he's got drumsticks. They built this thing where he puts drumsticks on his fingers.
Okay.
And he plays with a stick.
Yep.
Plays bass with it.
He also taps a lot, like two fingers there.
Yeah, and he does. Oh, he's
an incredible bass player. But their music to me, like, it's more so as a side project kind of thing for John Petrucci from Dream Theater. But it's
Dream Theater. It's a drinking game. We're going to introduce a drinking game. Every time he mentions Dream Theater, you take a shot. Okay, I know it's a bit late, but go back through the episodes, and I want to know every time he mentions Dream Theater or Mike Petrucci. There we go. Open this up right now. It's never been cracked.
Yeah, you can't. He's on everything. He's on everything. So yeah, but have a listen to them. But the funny thing about that band is they originally asked, before they started the band with John Petrucci, they actually asked Dimebag to join. But he said no. He was busy at the time.
Drinking?
Pardon? No. With Pantera.
Not that I'm saying that Dimebag was a drunk. I don't want to intimate that, but those boys in Pantera did like their booze. They did like their tequila.
Their whiskey. They liked everything.
They liked their booze. They liked it all. And I can imagine Dimebag just sort of going, "Nah, man." Yeah. When you say, "Oh, he's busy," I can imagine Dimebag going, "Nah, man, I'm busy. You know, it's like, you want me to play music?
So, just to finish, kind of got a few minutes to go kind of thing, but there's a bunch of supergroups which I looked into, which I'd never even heard of, really, which never should have been supergroups. Democracy, Sebastian Bach.
All right.
From Skid Row,
Yeah. Scott Ian from Anthrax.
Ted Nugent, and a couple of guys from Biohazard.
Never ever heard of them.
Yeah.
Ted Nugent was in a supergroup. You didn't write it down, but they were actually quite successful in America. Never big in Australia. Damn Yankees.
Oh yeah.
Ted Nugent, Tommy Shaw from Styx.
Yep.
And Jack Blades from Night Ranger.
Okay, you're right.
Yes, they were in. They were in Damn Yankees.
Right.
And they were quite popular in America.
Well, if you go listen to YouTube and watch this, it was really bad, but I've got it on screen. It wasn't good at all.
God, how could that be bad? I don't know.
I know, and it shouldn't have been done. But there's another one. You might remember this on TV. There was a show like The Voice and that kind of thing, but it was called Rockstar Supernova.
I remember Rockstar in Excess. That's where they found JD Fortune. And then I remember they were doing the next one.
Yeah, and they were going to sing, they're going to create a band that had Jason Newsted from Metallica, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, and Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses.
Because that was the stage.
As your backing band.
That's the stage when after the success of the Osbournes, every rock star was doing a reality TV show.
Yep.
And that's why they all went, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, so they went and joined this, and they were going to find a singer. And I think they did. And I think they recorded a little bit for it, but it just should never have been. It would never did.
Didn't they tour Australia, this band?
I don't know.
I think they might have.
I might have not been here, thank goodness.
Yeah, maybe
I might have been
not.
overseas. I saw another band called Another Animal, and that was the guys from Godsmack, who I do like.
You like them?
And guys from Ugly Kid Joe, who I do like. But they should not have put this together.
Okay.
So that was quite disturbing to watch.
Yeah.
Super Heavy.
Right.
I thought when I mentioned this to you the other day, or today, that you would know this. But you didn't seem to know that because it had Mick Jagger in it.
Yep.
With Joss Stone.
Joss Stone. She was so... Wasn't
and
she...
Damien
something...
Marley as well.
Wasn't Joss Stone something else? When she came out, everyone was just like blown away. And then she disappeared.
Yeah.
Apparently there was some issues.
Disappeared after this song.
Oh, no, apparently there was some issues. Maybe, I don't know, but, there's something going on.
Yeah.
That I probably don't know enough about to sort of comment on. And I see you've got...
Brides of Destruction.
Nikki Sixx was in this band. They toured Australia too.
Did they?
Yep.
Okay.
They played small clubs and stuff
and
like
LA
that.
Guns?
LA Guns. Who from LA Guns was it? Was it Tracy Guns?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, so any band that had Nikki Sixx or Tracy Guns in it should have been awesome. Were they?
No.
No. London, that's right. There was one of the guys from London as well. It was Nikki's original band.
Yeah.
From LA.
Yeah. And they were actually quite big.
They were the band that everyone thought was going to be...
the one making it.
The one making it until Nikki formed Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And everyone went, oh, hang on, these guys are better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more.
All right.
Tinted Windows.
Terrible name. That is one of the worst names I've ever heard.
Better than Chickenfoot.
The guys from Hanson. Hey?
The guys from Hanson?
You know, Hanson are they've got diehard fans.
Yeah, well, they're in this. Smashing Pumpkins are in it.
Who from the Smashing Pumpkins?
And a guy from Cheap Trick.
Who?
I don't know them.
Oh, they're all Chicago. That's that's the connection with all those guys, is Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Smashing Pumpkins were from Chicago.
Okay.
Cheap Trick are as Chicago as you get.
Yeah.
You know, and Hanson are clearly from Chicago as well. Yep. So that's all. And if you want to look at Australia, look, there's not a huge amount in Australia.
No,
supergroups. The Party Boys was the first one that came to my attention because they were all from successful or semi-successful groups, but they were always a bit of a fun band. You know, it was all Paul Christie from Mondo Rock.
Yep.
Was kind of like the central guy, and he would just get whoever. I think Ingrid Anderson sang for them on one album, and I think James Rain from Australian Crawl sang for them on another album. But they got huge when John Swanee joined them, and they had Alan Lancaster, who recently passed away from Status Quo. He lived in Sydney on bass, and a few other places, and they had a hit with "He's Gonna Step on You Again," the old John Congas song. Yep. And it was a massive hit in this country in 1987. And I think the Party Boys actually became a proper band.
Oh, really?
After that. They didn't
and recorded?
Oh, yeah, they had the album toured and everything, and then obviously
Disappeared,
I suppose, you know.
Another band I wanted to just touch base on, did write down, was a band called Killer Be Killed.
Oh, you constantly talk about Killer Be Killed.
Have a drink every time?
No, but it's the other guy.
Killer Be Killed is a band with Troy Sanders from Mastodon. He sings.
Yep.
The singer from Dillinger Escape Plan, who I've never got into and only started looking into.
They're a hard band to get into. I'll tell you now, they're intense.
Yep.
Hard to get into.
They live in tents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some bands have a collective.
So, yeah, and then Max Cavalera.
The great Max.
Yeah, from Sepultura.
He hasn't been with Sepultura.
Yeah, but people who don't know him will probably know him.
Even that's funny with Max Cavalera.
Soulfly then, sorry.
Yeah, Soulfly. But he's been with Soulfly and...
Longer than...
And Cavalera, doesn't he have the actual band Cavalera?
Yeah.
Longer than he was ever in Sepultura.
Yeah.
But he's still Max Cavalera from Sepultura.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that funny?
Started it.
He started them. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, but Killer Be Killed, they released an album this year, and it's just phenomenal. If you love heavy music, it's just three singers taking turns co-singing like Mastodon does, but it's amazing. So have a chance to listen to that album. One more thing I wanted to touch base on with Dissociatives.
Oh, yes. Australian, yes.
You
Paul
mentioned
Mac.
before, Paul Mac and Daniel Johns. Now, I don't know if you guys know or not, but there's a podcast out at the moment about Daniel Johns on Spotify. I've had episode 2 so far. They only go for about half an hour each, and they're talking to him about his past.
This is interesting, this one.
I've always been a Silverchair fan, but I've actually liked I like their last albums better than their first.
I'd agree.
I love his musical genius, writing, song, whatever you want to call it.
I thought Straight Lines was one of the best Australian songs of not last decade, the decade before.
The whole album was brilliant. And, Tuna in the Bri, for me, was a great song.
That was on Diorama, I think.
No, that was off...
No, I think it's on Diorama.
Tuna in the Bri?
Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, let's not Diorama. Let's not split hairs. That's just me being a pedantic.
Listen to his podcast, because he's been disappeared for quite some time.
Yeah, and he's had one of the newspapers in Australia said some not nice things about him, and he ended up suing them for defamation, and he won.
Yeah,
apparently they said he was involved in some sort of weird club or something like that in Sydney,
and that's talked about too on the project the other day.
I was wanting to know if they were going to cover on that.
That was on the podcast so far. Carrie Bickmore. She had a chat to him the other day. You can find it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
He discussed that, suing that paper for that. But yeah, go watch it. It's really, really interesting if you like Silverchair and if you like Daniel Johns. I've always liked them. I've seen him live a couple of times and just phenomenal. And to see what he went through as a kid.
Yes.
And to go through his anorexia and his arthritis issues, and he was a recluse pretty much his whole life since those days. But yeah, he recorded obviously with Paul Mac. I didn't like the album a lot, but it was actually pretty. If you like that style of music, it was pretty good.
He did something recently too with what's his name from Empire of the Sun.
Oh yeah, he did too. That was weird too.
I did enjoy that. I enjoyed that though because it was just a good dancey sort of silly song, but it was kind of cool. I really enjoyed it. But I find it interesting. We'll finish up this episode talking a bit about this because Daniel, you've talked about Silverchair a lot. You like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I probably don't like them as much as you.
No.
I know he's said recently he wouldn't get Silverchair back for $1 million.
But then he did say that was on the podcast.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah,
He said they haven't offered me $10 million.
Yeah, that's what other people have said. Are you kidding? Silverchair would make more than $1 million if they reformed and toured. They would be like the Silverchair Powderfinger reunion tour kind of thing.
Yeah,
that would be.
He did say though on the talking to Carey that he would never play live again.
This is an interesting thing.
He said there's no reason to play. He doesn't like it. He never has liked it. But he will record music most likely, and you'll be able to listen to it. You don't need to see me play it. He just doesn't. He's not comfortable on stage. And when you see the interviews and you hear him talking about it, you can probably understand why.
We tend to forget that they were kids. They were 14-year-old children.
Yeah, and he wasn't. When he got back to school, he wasn't the hero of the school.
Oh no, Australians.
He was abused.
Yeah, Australia. We as Australians, we tend
Poppy
to.
syndrome.
Yeah, we tend to like go. You think, oh, because you're famous, you must be a dickhead now.
Yeah.
We basically say that to people's faces.
Yeah, well, they were playing really small little gigs in Newcastle, and next minute they were on Madison Square Garden opening up for Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And they were children. So.
And it's funny, this is the early 90s. The way we protect kids now, do you think Silverchair would happen in...
I think it would have been. I think they're still...
They'd probably be more protected. The parents would have to be more involved. I know their parents
they were
really
there.
tried to be there for those boys.
Yeah.
You know.
They couldn't tour anywhere until they're 18 without a parent.
That's right, yeah.
Well,
a lot of venues they wouldn't have been able to play in.
No.
Without a parent.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of things with Chili Peppers like Dave Navarro, and they did a few things, driving cars and stuff which they shouldn't have done, but that's just been the kid, wanted to do the wrong thing and have a bit of fun, but what the effect of it all seemed to be like was turned Daniel Johns into a recluse. He didn't like going outside, he would stay inside all the time, he got sick, all these things happened. Yeah. But if you have a chance, go listen to that podcast. It's on Spotify.
When I saw that, I thought of you because I thought, how much you loved Silverchair. When he said, we're not getting... And I thought, this is interesting considering he has been such a recluse. And when I heard this podcast was coming out, I thought, he's not... But he's directly involved.
Yeah,
he's talking. And I thought, I'm going to have a listen, Chris.
Yeah,
it sounds
episode
like
2's out so far, so...
Yeah.
It's only short each episode.
Am I going to sit there and go, oh my God, and be shocked by half the stuff? Because
Probably. we just don't get it as adults now to see what a child goes through. That kind of.
We forget, don't we?
We forget.
Yeah,
you see them on stage, you see them in the magazines, you think they're having a great life and doing fun, but they were bullied after that at school because that's what we do here in Australia. Tall poppy syndrome, we tear them down.
Miley Cyrus said she was bullied at school.
Yeah.
She's always said that because she had a famous dad.
Yeah.
This is before she did Hannah Montana. She had the famous dad, and she said she was picked on mercilessly at school. So, it's what kids do. I think kids just get jealous and they point out the different.
Yeah.
That's what kids do. We can't sort of stop that with kids. I know there's something with bullying with kids, but this is what kids do. They pick the different and they go, you're different.
Yeah.
And I'm running with, because we're a social creature, and it was like, if I sort of look at you and think, you're different, and then I'm accepted. If I don't look at you, or I disregard yourself. You know, I think that's what kids do.
Yeah,
it's a survival instinct almost. I don't think they're taught that. I think it's just what kids do.
Coming from a small town like Newcastle.
It's Newcastle. I've not lived there.
Back in the 90s.
Back in the 90s, but it's a very
industrial.
It's these beautiful beaches with. It was like coming. I went through there on a bus at 4:00 in the morning. It was like a scene from Blade Runner. It's like this industrial steel thing's right there with flames coming out the top and everything. It's this weird sort of place, but it's very tribal in a way. Even Dave Gleason from the Screaming Jets who come from Newcastle. Yeah. It's because of the surf culture and everything and the workers. I mean, you got steel workers, and I imagine it's a tough town in certain ways.
Andrew Johns from the NRL, they're from there, obviously, from Newcastle Knights, and he talks about it all the time. Very tough town to grow up in. Yeah. Back then, especially in the 80s and 90s.
I imagine it still pretty much is, and, even though it's got these fantastic beaches and great surfing.
Yeah.
So, I guess to say.
That is what it is.
Anyway, that was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Supergroups. We've probably not even gone to every, and I'm sure people say, what about this group? What about that group? But that's the thing.
Just comment. We'll look it up. We'll
look it up. I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to listen to it. I'm not a supergroups. Come on.
I personally don't think a lot of them work.
No, out of all the ones we mentioned, there are probably only about 3 that really
worked,
3 or 4 that really worked and were successful and were good. But apart from that, anyway, we'll be back. We've done episode 12.
11.
No, we've just done 11. We've got episode 12 coming.
Oh, yeah. You said done.
Not without nothing. No. Episode 11. I'm not thinking that much ahead. Like, subscribe. All the stuff.
Follow on Instagram.
Comment.
Give us your thoughts on things.
Ask us out on dates. All that sort of stuff.
You're paying.
Yeah, I've got no money. That's why I'm doing a podcast.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon, eh?
Yeah, get out of here. Bye.
See ya.